Okay, I think I'm alive. I've forgotten how to do this. It's been a long time. Hello, hello, good people. Shout out, Mary Cohan. Rest in peace. Memory eternal. Oh man, uh, lots happened. I mean, I suppose. Ethan, you little cutie, you're on your game. Um, yeah, it's almost strange doing one of these things because you feel like you. I suppose it's like anything. I'm out of practice. Have I forgotten how to stream? Did I ever know? What's the point? You know? Ethan is someone who I've been, you know, eager to chat with. He's a interesting dude. Seems to be diving deep into the waters of the TLC. All right, let's see. Let's fulfill following our great leader of the LARPing progression order stuff. I don't know all the Grizz words or the Vervaeke words, but Grizz has said trying to fulfill on the title, or at least on the what I wrote in the description on this post-Pascal stream. What did I learn during Pascha? Uh, one of the things I thought about sharing with y'all with the TLC is I feel like during this Lenten season, I had the experience of I was talking to Jason and Cal about this a little bit of I don't know of experiencing a kind of a kind of loss of faith, but not really. I don't honestly know that I'm capable of a loss of faith. This is for for those that are unfamiliar with my story, and Ethan, since you're the only one who's commented, I know you're maybe still here. But my my experience with my own deconstruction and evolution as a Christian was I would have never not called myself a Christian. Like I never, despite all my doctrinal deconstruction and moving around and questioning of things, and this repeated phrase, I saw somebody say it the other day. Is it Rhett McLaughlin? Is that his name? Rhett and Link, the Good Mythical Morning people, or like way back in the day, the guys who sang silly songs on uh, Veggie Tales. I think that was my first exposure to those two with Phil. What's the guy's name who does Veggie Tales? Phil. I can't remember. Um, but he said he was talking about his deconstruction with Alex O'Connor, and he said, which I didn't finish all the way, but I do have thoughts about that I'll bring up. Ups, what up, Harris? Good to see you, buddy. Happy Easter. I'm also not going to do the Orthodox thing because here's the thing. Ups, sorry, and forgive me, but the whole like, he is risen indeed, and then all the different corresponding. I have a list of them, or we print it out. My church prints out the. Here we go. First off screen, McMo, you sweet boy, you sweet man. So this is like your Paschal. How to put together a traditional Easter basket. You have horseradish to keep it spicy. You have a candle to keep it lit. You have eggs and ham and bacon and kielbasi and cheese and butter because you've theoretically been fasting from all these things. Some people do, some people don't. It's okay. Then on the back of this is, they try to equip you to know what to do with all these things. On the back of all these things, these are Paschal greetings from around the world. And it's kind of this fun game because what happens during the Paschal liturgy and nocturnes, mainly nocturnes, but it'll continue through the whole post-Paschal season too in the church, is you do all these call and responses. And so the primary one in English is Christ is risen. He is risen indeed, or truly he is risen, which however you want to respond. And then people go around showing off. you know, flexing out, what's the current cool kid term of all the different languages that they know of how to say Christ is risen. And it's kind of a fun game because like our church is full of many different nationalities. There are people from all sorts of different ethnic groups, and especially on Pascha, they come out of the woodwork. The Easter and Christmas only people show up, and then the priests, go around and there's fun ones, but I don't know them. I have not committed I'm a bad. And this is what I would say. I'm a very bad Eastern Rite evangelical convert to Orthodoxy because I have not dove into Orthodoxy doctrinally and liturgically the way that I think a lot of zealous evangelical converts do. And part of it is I'm tired. So that gets back to, we're circling back to, things that I learned. So not that I stopped thinking of myself as a Christian, but I definitely had the experience. I was telling Cal and Jason again that because I've never intellectually doubted Christianity. That was just never something to me. Like even in that Rhett Alex O'Connor conversation, when he was talking about losing his faith with like evolution and 6-day creation and doctrines of hell and all that kind of stuff. Because I went through that. The doctrine of hell was a big one for me. I know you. I know your handle. I don't know your name, but anyhow, hello, welcome. I definitely went through a hell deconstruction. That was a big one for me. Was losing faith, and so I had that same liminal moment that Rhett talked about when it came to hell, where I was just like, geez, I was wrong in the way that I conceptualized and comprehended hell. And so then that opened up the floodgates of this line that I think a lot of people have said, what the hell else am I wrong about? It created a lot of doctrinal uncertainty and planted the seeds, I suppose, of distrust in the authority of the people that had been over me. Because I was just like, you guys never told me this. Why did no one ever tell me this? And yeah, and I totally believe in the doubt thing. And so like one of my favorite quotes about it, Esther Meek was recently on, which I haven't finished either, on Grail Country talking to Nate, and she's been making the rounds in the corner a little bit. And I have not read it in any of Esther Meek's books, but this is a Luke Bingo thing. I first heard of Esther Meek from Rob Bell, who talked about her little book of knowing, her book on epistemology. Rob Bell Bingo. But I agree. So I learned of Esther Meek through Rob Bell, but I didn't even realize Esther Meek is a big fan of Michael Polanyi, and I really like Polanyi and have learned a lot from Polanyi. And one of my favorite Polanyi quotes, which I initially heard from Joshua Ryan Butler, who's a pastor in Portland, talking about when he read through Tim Keller's Reason of God. This is deep evangelical name calling in a positive way, like not negatively, but I'm just referencing people that if you're not in the evangelical world, you're gonna have no idea who all these people are. But Joshua Ryan Butler tweeted, I think back in the day when Twitter was Twitter, because he had been sent an early copy of Timothy Keller, Memory Eternal, his book, The Reason for God, which is not like an apologetics thing. Kind of is, but Tim Keller's intellectual approach to Christianity was just always so much better than most of the typical apologetics that I grew up with. But Tim Keller, in that book, quotes Polanyi. It's an excellent quote. It's one of my favorites. I tend to think in quotes and reference them, but the Polanyi quote is, doubt and belief are ultimately equivalent. And I always say what that means is doubt is belief. So back to the quote. Doubt and belief are ultimately equivalent. Doubt relies on a subterranean set of tacit belief in something else. It's a great quote. Just look at it written out, Google it. Doubt and belief are ultimately equivalent. Doubt relies on a subterranean set of tacit belief in something else. I think it's from Polanyi's book, The Tacit Dimension. But essentially, what he's saying, in my own words, because you don't really understand something if you can't say it in your own words, is doubt is belief. Doubt is just belief in, it's apophatic belief in not that. And apophatic theology is what led me into orthodoxy, where I am now. And so the doubt piece, almighty RJ, I disagree. Welcome. Good to see you. It's called name dropping. Like, I just don't, so you can come in later and tell me why I'm wrong about this, but I think doubt and belief, I can see how they are different in a way. It's just, but in this quote and what I'm saying, doubt and belief are equivalent in that doubt is belief in not this. So if you have something that you can see with your focal salient vision propositionally, so like you can say this doctrine of hell, eternal conscious torment, and you can lay it out propositionally what it is and what it isn't and try to bound it with words some way. And then you can say like, well, I don't believe that. When you say I don't believe that, you doubt that. And so so you're saying I believe not that. That's what I'm saying. That's where doubt and belief, doubt is belief. It's just belief in not this. That's all that phrase is. I do think that it is the spirit of doubt and the spirit of belief are different in that they're positively and negatively oriented. But as I like to say, behind any and all distinctions, there's a higher implicit unity. Anyhow, that was never a problem for me in my general orientation. I think as Sherry has said, she said once, and I love Sherry for this, but they were talking about autism because autism came up in the corner. And also I want to eventually talk to the guy, what was his name? Who was on PBKs. He released in the homeroom a little bit ago. Who's the autistic guy? Who does all the autistic research? No, stop it. Stop it. Sartori was trying to put me in contact with him to talk to him, but this was all before Lent. Okay, looking it up, doing research, sorry. What's the guy's name? John from Christianity on the Spectrum. That was a very interesting, that was interesting too, because that's the thing. I was gonna, during Lent, for the first 2 weeks of Lent, I think, I didn't watch any TLC content. I didn't keep up on anything. Went totally stone turkey. Stone cold turkey? Cold turkey? Stone Cold Steve Austin? I went cold turkey, and then I decided I would still listen to some things and watch things, because when I was working or doing various projects, I still wanted something to listen to, and I just didn't want to listen to music all the time or have complete silence, because I'm too who wants to be alone with their thoughts all the time? It's kind of scary to be alone with your thoughts, which is why meditation is good. Probably. Who knows? Let's not think about it. But that guy was on there, and Sherry, back to the Sherry quote, autism came up or something, because also the telepathy tapes is another thing that's out there in the TLC zeitgeist. And even Rogan started talking about the telepathy tapes. Also, YouTube. I think YouTube did they release Sam and I's conversation on the telepathy tapes, where Sam and McMo made, yes, for sure. I doubt myself. I doubt my doubt. I doubt a lot of things. I'm very Cartesian in that sense. That's how I know I exist, because I doubt. Just kidding. That's a joke. But, okay. Doing too many things. I'm doing a PBK thing. But Sherry said that I'm one of the few people in the corner who's not autistic. And I do kind of feel that way, because I'm not the kind of, like, even John from On the Spectrum, or he was saying everybody likes things really ordered and really structured. And then when something looks weird of that, when you realize the map is not the territory, and you realize, or when you have the unsettling experience that Rhett had when it came to like believing in evolution, or when I had the doctrine of hell gets pulled out from under you, or at least the way that you conceive and comprehend it. Uh, and then all of a sudden, that's your map. Your map gets ripped in half and torn up, and you're like, oh no, reality doesn't exist. I think I always knew this quote, which I love, which is, all models are false, some are useful. One of my favorite quotes. It's a really succinct way to say a lot of what Ian McGilchrist is about. I think I always knew that. And so, like, while it was very uncomfortable for me when hell and other doctrines were unsettled, I was always just like, that's fine. I mean, I always knew somewhat that wasn't right. Like, it wasn't fully right. I don't know that it is possible to doctrinally encapsulate truth in an objective way. I don't, because I ultimately, at the end of the day, and this is something Jordan Hall has talked about a bunch recently, which is something I've been talking about forever. Relational ontology is the best ontology. Substance ontology is silly. Everything is relation, because that's the whole idea of behind any and all distinctions is an implicit relation. Otherwise, you couldn't even make the distinction. So, Mandy, I did listen to your Mumford and Son song. Thank you for sharing it with me. Good to see you. So that's the Polanyi quote. Doubt. I always knew that, but now we're circling all back to what happened in my Christian identity over Lent. I think I just realized I'm at a place in my life where there's enough busyness and stress and pressure where I think it's a Chesterton quote, but he said something like, Christianity hasn't been tried and found wanting. It's been found difficult and never tried. I don't know if that's one of those misapplied Chesterton quotes. But I basically had the experience, because all of the intellectual stuff and Jesus, all that, like I've never struggled with those sorts of things because of what I was just saying around doubt and models and whatever. That's just always been my natural tendency. But what I did have is more of an existential doubt over Lent, to just be like, I don't know that I'm capable of being a Christian. I just don't know that I can do it. I don't think that uh I don't think that I'm capable of just voluntarily self-emptying. I think I always had a little bit, uh and that's probably, and all that means, I think my kids were trying to comfort me because I share all this kind of stuff with them. And Cal and Jason are just incredibly gracious. Cal sent me. I doubt Cal is here because he's basically stopped doing TLC and philosophy and just really like locked into his life and his local practice and his family and just praying the rosary essentially. But I think that's right, Cal, if I'm wrong. But like my kids were saying basically, like, well, they just said all that means is you're just not a saint, Papa. You're just you're not fully theosified yet. You're not fully as God. And I think it's a big this point came up in who was it? So Jordan Hall spoke is better. Spoke with, what was that conversation when he was talking about Job and stuff? Okay, listen, I don't have a toll. Who are these people that keep telling me you have some outstanding toll and they're trying to listen? If you're just trying to rob from people by texting them lies so that they give you information so you can do identity theft, that's not cool. Thank you. Your kids are wrong. You suck, bro. Okay. Lost where I was at. But so Jordan Hall spoke with, what the hell was it? Someone tell me who he spoke with recently, where he's talking a lot about the inverse of Job. It was a corner adjacent person. Oh, no, I know who it was. It was Ken Lowry. not Kyle Lowry, who is the Canadian basketball player. Is he Canadian? He used to play for the Raptors. Now I think they traded him. But Ken Lowry, um, who is great, climbing Mount Sophia. I believe that was a conversation. He spoke with Jordan Hall, which is really great because they talk about all my favorite things. I messaged Jess and I was basically like, they're reading our mail because all the Job stuff is stuff that almost assuredly the seeds were planted in conversations with Jess because you can't listen. Almost the author of Job has to reference Jess at this point. Um, and then a lot of it was relational ontology and Trinitarian stuff, which Jordan also had a great conversation with Sam about, but it's very high level academic. um, why did I bring up Jordan Hall? I can't even remember. What was the thread? Oh, Will. That was it. Will. Back to my. I think I just had a deepening. See, this is one of those things. There's intellectual abstract knowledge, and then there's the kind of knowledge that you get through suffering and metamorphosis and repentance, I suppose. Where maybe where true belief actually happens, where you have to embody it, you have to live it. And I just realized like I can't. It's what I used to call the gospel of just try harder. I can't will. I am incapable of willing Christ to the world. I don't. I can't do it. It's too hard. It's not something that I can just because there is that part of me that wants to just bro out, whether it's um any form of radical try hard, um, whether it's like exercise or fasting or whatever. Just salvation is not subject to your will. Salvation is the kenotic voluntary self-emptying of your will and the hospitality to make room for the others, not my will but your will. And and there's this weird anti-Christ Christian version where you could say like, oh, you can will that, you can just do it, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, which I had never thought about recently, but like the absurdity of like imagining pulling yourself up by the bootstraps. You can't. It's like sawing off the branch you're standing on. It doesn't work. You you destroy your own foundations. And I think that is kind of the weird paradoxical uh Christ, the eternal Taoistic non-duality that includes duality of the truth of Christianity, is that when you finally die to the ego, which when you do that when you're living, the ego or the will, when you do that when you're living, you become a saint. You become a living sacrifice. Or when that happens in your own death, you trample down death by death, and the seed goes into the earth and perishes and brings forth much fruit. Um, and I'm just not there. But then Cal's encouragement to me and Jason's encouragement, like Cal sent me one of the most encouraging messages I've ever heard in my life. I probably should just save it somewhere and listen to it when I'm sad. Because both of those men are incredibly encouraging, which somebody like myself who doubts his own doubts and is very self-critical, probably because I still have too much ego and will. Because that's it. Like even self-criticism is rooted in pride. It's like, oh, I think I'm better than what I am. And so then I like feel shame and bad about that. Well, that's like, get over yourself, I guess, to some degree. Um, I don't know. I really realized that during this Lent of just like, I had a lot of like, I can't do it. Which seems elementary and really basic, I guess, when it comes to humility or life or the basic Christian message, but like there's a difference between saying you believe it and acting as if you believe it. You know what I mean? Um, so I would say that's it. That's one of the biggest things that I've learned during Lent. Hey, Paul, good to see you, buddy. This does not have a running time on it anymore. StreamYard has changed. Why have you changed? In times of change, learners inherit the earth, while the learned find themselves beautifully equipped for a world that no longer exists. It's another great quote. So I suppose I'm going to have to learn how to roll with the changes. And oh, here is the time. I just couldn't see it because I'm not smart. 25:37. How long have I been talking? Okay, as usual, I'm not going to do this for super long because I've got things to do. And there's many more thoughts, many of which I've shared with people offline. I have increasing thoughts, God, so many, about city living, community, being of the world but not in the world. A lot of McLuhan. I've been thinking a lot of McLuhan, as I always am. He's on my Mount Rushmore of meaning, of the meaning crisis or the intimacy crisis. Because I really do, just like McLuhan's The Medium and the Message. That thing. The medium is the medium and the message. And then his statement, which he wrote in some article about in Christ, the medium and the message are one. There is no separation between medium and message, or they are in harmony. The medium creates the message, a harmonious message, whereas the medium does not. If the medium, the space, and the message that arises in the medium of that space are not at one, the masculine and the feminine, the masculine, what manifests in the womb of that space, are not at harmony, and there's some sort of malformation happening there to some degree, some sort of bastardization. And I mean that probably technically. So I've been thinking a lot about that. I've been thinking of electricity and moving. McLuhan talked about moving at the speed of electricity, and how the human consciousness is just, we're not really ready for moving at the speed of electricity within the technocratic electrified world, and how that lends to mental instability. I was talking with Chezi and RJ, maybe, as one of our Jewish contingency. I need some Sabbath, man. I need yeah, there is something about that where it's not a dumb idea to have a weekly day of non-negotiable rest. It's not dumb. I think there's a lot of wisdom with that. Because it's almost like that's almost a medicine, an antidote for will. You can't, no willing on this day. No willing, no more striving, no more trying to fulfill the lack with your incessant egoic appetites. Okay, I'm going to open this up. I believe I will pin the thing in my YouTubes, and I will talk to y'all and look at comments. So let's do it. Here, I see myself looking at my phone. I think I have the link. I will post it. And let's chat. If you want to come in and chat, that would be awesome. And otherwise, I will just look at comments and do some commenting on that. All right, here we go. Game on. Man was made for the Sabbath, not Sabbath for man. Yeah, exactly. That's an off, it's obviously biblical. We believe in being biblical around here. This is a biblical corner of the internet. It's a biblical church. We are biblical. We have a high view of scripture. Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy. Is that Terrence and Philip? Hey, buddy. All right. Mark is an electronics engineer. Mark, I listened to you and Mark in your, I don't know what number it is in your series of chats, but it was good. I know. So, Almighty All, can you tell us your name? Have you come out of the lurk yet? Someone came out of the lurk on a PPK stream. Who was it when PPK was doing his beatdowns on people who, well, it wasn't a beatdown, but it was saying like one way to prove you have skin in the game and you can build trust in this thing is coming out of the lurk. So I don't know if you've come out of the lurk because I don't know your name, but anyhow, you're not. Here's the thing. No, I'm not Canadian. I'm not a native Minnesotan. That's what I was just talking to my wife about. Like, in a lot of ways, I feel very much more South Dakotan than Minnesotan. And part of that is, this is more Luke Bingo stuff, because in South Dakota, if you're a native South Dakota person, the distinction because people who are not from the Dakotas will say things like the Dakotas because they think of North and South Dakota and they think of Dakota Territory. If you're from the Dakotas, you think of North and South Dakota much more in terms of Eastern and Western because there's a river that runs through both of them, and geographically and culturally the distinction is much more between East and West. If you're from Western South Dakota, like I am, where you grew up near the Badlands, I grew up north of the Badlands. You're like I always tell people I grew up. If you haven't seen this movie, you should watch it. It's I spit on the screen. It's Dances with Wolves. It's an absolute gem of a movie. It is Americana for sure. You should watch it. Michael, hello, buddy. Dance with Wolves is absolutely excellent. I basically grew up really near where they filmed that. And the cultural difference of Western South Dakota, and part of that is the Dasein, I think, of the geography of Western South Dakota is like there's no trees, rolling hills, grasslands, livestock, and then the Black Hills when you get really west is much more, I don't know, it's much more like homesteady, sod housey, like all of that geography and landscape and raising livestock is very different than like the flat, completely plain area of Eastern South Dakota, Minnesota. Like they're culturally a lot more similar. Western South Dakota is more like Wyoming or Montana. Anyhow, what's up, Michael? How you doing, buddy? I haven't seen you on stream during Lent.
Yeah, yeah. It wasn't like a fasting thing necessarily. I was just very, very busy with work.
Yeah,
Uh, in fact, with that, uh, during Lent, you were talking about some of your takeaways post Lent,
yeah,
and I was thinking a lot about what I went through in the last, 50 something days too. This was probably my worst Lent in a lot of ways in the last 4 years. Um,
probably
worst.
mine too.
For what I noticed for me, it was worse in the sense that I was less involved with the services, with
Hmm.
fasting itself. Like I had like a little bit of in it at the beginning, and then like last week I'm good, but in the middle, I'm not participating in the community the same
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
And then even like for Holy Week, not in services the way that I was the years before. And uh and all this together was like, okay, if I don't play with the rest of the community, well then I'm not part of the community, right?
yeah. I
Like,
mean, I would agree. It's kind of like I just think it's almost not debatable in a sense. It's just like when people, like you say you're a basketball player, but you never play basketball. It's like, well, you don't. you're not a basketball player.
you gotta play. Yeah, you have to actually get
Participatory,
up.
yeah, knowing, yeah.
Yeah. So I know, and I noticed consequences as a result of that, like both internally and externally. And so I don't know. I hope I take that more seriously. Like part of the reason, well, part of the justification that I used for that is we'll likely move soon,
Mm.
and
'Cause where
so
are you? Are you down by Father Stephen DeYoung? Is that where you are?
kinda, San like not that close to him, but
This
still in
is
the
like those are
south.
TLC references. We don't even give, like, a state or a town. It's just like, "Are you close to this Orthodox priest?"
That's pretty funny, actually. No, so I'm out in San Antonio,
Okay.
and more than likely we're gonna go up north to Dallas.
You're by that famous wrestler, right? Like San Antonio Sartori?
Oh yeah. He's not too far from me, which we still haven't gotten
Okay.
lunch, and I feel terrible about.
That's what I'm sensing from you a lot, even over your Lent and even this, some shame. Maybe you need that
Yeah.
Father Stephen Freeman book on, like, Beyond Our Shame. Maybe you need that book.
Well, yeah, and uh, one of the things that's like kind of related to that's come up a lot in the last few weeks is um, hatred for sin, right?
That has
And
come up
one
for you personally or intellectually?
uh, both. Well, okay,
Right.
so like I haven't necessarily felt that. I have
Okay.
noticed that come up through things I'm ingesting, whether that is a homily or something on YouTube or whatever. I've just had it come. So it's hitting my relevance realization hard,
Mhm.
right? And and so I'm going, okay. And I think maybe why, or part of the reason why, is I've noticed that as that workload got really stressful and I'm disconnected from the community, all of a sudden I'm struggling with anger more than usual. And
Yeah.
there's a proper place for that, right? Like to hate where I'm not embodying agapic love.
Yeah, well, I think true. Yeah, absolutely, and what came to mind as you were talking about that, I got the image of, um, even very, biologically or, like, evolutionarily, you think of a herd, like, I think of somebody talk about,
Yeah.
zebras or whatever, and all of a sudden, if you paint, like, a giant orange stripe on the side of a zebra, that's a very, survival of the fittest thing, like, you get picked out, like, either a weak or a separate or a diff something that draws your attention away from the mass
Yeah.
is, like, picked out by a predator, and so that kind of even you could think about that spiritually. Is that a kind of a tactic, I would say, in a very Screwtapian, kind of demonic way of malevolent forces, however you wanna cage that. I would say demonic. My son's like, "Everything's
Hmm.
not demonic, dad." But is to isolate someone because then you can be picked off. Like, it's just it's not good to
Well,
be isolated from the herd.
uh, completely agree. And one of the mental separations I've had to make for that, because having grown up Pentecostal and the use of demonic or demon, it just carries like all these connotations for me and for
Yeah.
how I grew up, and the kind of emissarian thinking that goes around it. But
Mhm.
but as soon as I swap into daemon,
Mhm.
just the like pronunciation change, right? Then
Change
then
the
I'm
word, and you can be like, "Oh, that's okay." Yeah.
and then I'm like, yeah, it's a background process that can run away and get out of control
But
and make me
even that
sexually
sort of a
wrong.
simple thing. So this is something that I've thought about. So I wanna respond to Parsons about why I did not I already apologized to Cadell last about not participating in this thing, which I was supposed to, but it's kind of in light of everything we were talking about, I just didn't have space to do it. But even that little difference of demonic and you get a block, but then daemon and you can accept it, but that fundamentally shows you because like both those words, you can put them side by side and you can say like, well, they are the same thing. But even that is illustrating to you the difference between information and meaning.
Yeah.
Because I mean, they're basically identical from an information standpoint. But for
That's right.
you personally, the meaning is totally different. This one is dead. It's a despirited
Mhm.
word. Like it's lost its efficacy, for like awakening meaning in you. And that's I love that George MacDonald, Malcolm Guite quote of like meaning is not conveyed, it is awakened, which is why I talk about
Mm.
receive with meekness the implanted word so much. And we live in an information age where people just want to give you propositions and words. And you're just like, if that doesn't awaken meaning in me, it's impotent. It's nothing. It has
Yeah.
it's potency without actuality.
Yeah, and I think you can see that you can probably notice that similarly with what I would call like visual symbols, right? So like logos. So I work in the web development, web design space, right?
Hmm.
And so when you see icons, right, in the
Hmm.
web development space sense, when you see these icons so much, right, like it just turns into a blur after a while. Like it doesn't catch your attention because again, the
Right.
relevance realization kind of thing. Like
Hmm.
why would you pay attention to that? You're just seeing it all the time. But the minute something changes a little bit about it, right, all of a sudden it gets brought up, right?
Hmm.
Now you can notice it,
Yeah.
right? So I feel like I watched that play out as well. Another thought that came to mind for what it's worth. This was leading up to Lent. Was uh, I had this experience of, and words are weird for it, but not all that weird in these spaces. But let's say a tremendous amount of grace at once, right? Um, and and it was this blessing to break free from a lot of shackles and turn and walk the other way, right? Which I did a lot with. I ended up in the Orthodox Church. I wasn't looking for Christianity. I didn't.
Hmm.
There wasn't none, but it was largely as a result of this tremendous amount of grace. Whereas that is not um, normative, and it's not even appropriate for most folks or even for any given individual most of the time. Little bits are better, right?
To
It's like,
receive an inordinate amount of grace.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it might kill you. It's overwhelming.
It might kill you. It sure, right, right. And so I've noticed after a few years of some healing or away from that experience that the things that I was grappling with leading up to that experience have now started to resurface, almost like neural pathways, right? Of like deeply embedded neural pathways.
Hmm.
So now those things are resurfacing,
From
right?
before the
From before.
inordinate grace. Okay.
Yeah. And now I have tools and community and all these things in order to combat that, right? That doesn't require the amount of grace that might kill you,
Yeah.
but instead has to come with a willingness of obedience and participation through these small doses of death.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I suppose that's almost like mm, I hear you. I suppose what comes to mind for that are just like through daily ritualistic practices of minor deaths, which are built into like a Christian frame, I suppose. There's a lot of grace there if that is something you cannot harden yourself to. But then, because that the death of the will and the ego, like I was talking about, is
Hmm.
completely necessary and inevitable. If you become hardened to those things where they're no longer efficacious, then then God will come in with that big dose because because it has to,
Yeah,
like it has to happen. It's part of your salvation. Like the will has to die, you know,
yeah. And I
one way or
notice
another.
I'm actively in the fight to not harden myself against those things.
But this is the trick of what I was talking about though before, is like that little thing, but you can't will it
Mm-mm.
because that's where it becomes paradoxical. So how do you will? Because that's where I often find myself. I'm trying to will the death of my will, you know?
I do, and Father Stephen had a rant about this on Lord of Spirits a few weeks back,
Mm,
and he was sort of saying something that was just like make it simpler than it is, and that very conundrum that you were just talking about is a result of from his perspective and the way that I understood him is as a result of certain theological ideas coming out of
mm.
the Reformation about will and what we're doing. Who
Yeah,
know?
hear
I
that, reformers? Again, your fault.
Orthodox blaming Reformation for things aside, uh, I, I also, I'm continually confronted with faithfulness, sonship, loyalty, right? It's like, okay, do it. Like really, really do it. Like what notice right now, like of your surroundings in this moment, if you are made in an image that can see what the highest good is, and that's not you determining it. You can see
Yeah.
what the highest good is, right? And then submit to that, do it.
Yeah, I think what's hard about that, and again, I don't know, maybe at some point I'll play part of it but I'll just keep referencing it a lot. I feel I need to rewatch it, the Jordan Hall, um, Ken Lowry climbing Mount Sophia talk, because I feel like they had a section there where they spoke about this dynamic very, very well. The death of the will, and it's um not my will but your will, those sorts of things, and even sonship, what you were saying, because that is what Jesus was and what he did, and it's Abraham and Isaac too. It's I
Mhm.
don't know, sorry Nate, again, this is our I don't I still the Abraham story is just unending. You could talk about it unendingly. I suppose it's like Cain and Abel. It's like any biblical story. Is there infinitely uh infinitely fecund, there's just
Mhm,
like you
mhm,
could go into it
mhm.
forever. But when Abraham was called to sacrifice Isaac, there was a kind of borderline absurdist faith, McMo, in in that command. And this is probably where I lean more absurdist than even Nate. I've talked about this is one Nate and I agree on so many things. But the Abraham story is one of them where I don't know. I just and it's and the thing is like it's a very uncomfortable, unsettling thing for me to admit, because it sounds a lot more uh Islamic or like double predestination Calvinist than I like, of just like, well, we just have faith that God is good, even though this looks really horrific, and we just have to believe that it's okay. This is where I probably would also piss off David Millie Hart if he had any idea who I was. But
That's a deeply
uh,
masculine love, though.
it's
It's like the reverse of the Oedipus problem.
okay. I have to think about that.
So, like, instead of a toxic, overprotective, consuming love, it is it's a sacrifice of first fruits instead.
And it's the kind of thing that necessarily has built into it the death of your own will, because it doesn't make any sense to you.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I mean, it necessarily, you have to lay your will on the altar. Great song that I love. I always think of this.
Well,
Is
it might.
Matthew Perryman? I have to quote this. Matthew Perryman
Mhm.
Jones. He has a song called What's the name of the song? The lyric is "Lay your soul on the threshing floor." Such a great song. I think it was on the Sons of Anarchy. I think they used that song. Anyhow, go ahead.
I could imagine that it made sense to Abraham, but it's still hard.
I mean, it had to make sense. And I think, well, that's what the book of Hebrews says, right? About Abraham is, and I have no idea, sorry, Jewish friends, RJ, you can tell me if this is crazy, but the book of Hebrews essentially says that Abraham had faith that even God could bring him back from the dead. He was, so in some sense, it was again, it's about back to that doubt and belief thing, that Polanyi quote. It's just like, I can't, because at that time, the whole point of the book of Hebrews is to say there wasn't a, at least my understanding is that there wasn't a clearly intellectual, ideological understanding of even an idea of resurrection at that time. And so Abraham, to have the kind of faith where his will is laid down in a relational trust, is I am going to do this absurd, horrific thing that is very much like all the surrounding pagan cultures, right, of child sacrifice. And God, the God who's different than all that, calls me then to do the child sacrifice. What the hell? You know, like that seems strange, but yet he had a belief in some kind of a way that this God is so good that even that he'll make that thing right somehow. Like, I believe him, but you have to lay your own intellect and will to death in it. I think that's the point. I think that's necessary. Otherwise, you're still submitting to the negative, the God of your own understanding, the God of your own comprehension.
So I think it's Peugeot that I'm pulling from here on at least how I received it was uh, offering up your first fruits, and that's what he's doing. I mean, obviously, that's what Abraham is doing with Isaac. That is
Right,
his
right,
first
right.
fruits, right?
Yes.
And it's also identity. It's his identity, right? It's the highest form of his identity is his son, his first
Especially
son.
in that culture, yeah, that's your son
Right.
is the inheritance.
That's right. That's right. And
Yeah,
so the highest possible you, the most you must
yeah,
be sacrificed. And then in that sacrifice, if you like genuinely put up for sacrifice, and then that's the tip of the end where the synergy then comes back.
yeah, yeah. The Taurus, the logos creating from the cross. Yeah. I mean, Jason, get in here. Why? Listen, how come nobody else wants to come and play? Because they're just working, or what's going on? Okay, let's see. I want to look at some of these comments. I agree. This is like a Girardian take, right? A little bit of the God was trying to kill the impulse to sacrifice children and Abraham's descendants forever. So it's like I mean, I think I can see aspects of that. Okay, RJ said, I don't know if I'd go that far. I'm certain Jews could believe that framing, but these days it is not taken anywhere near resurrection of Isaac in Abraham's mind. Yeah, so the book of Hebrews. Apparently, Jews do not consider the book of Hebrews canonical. um, Look at this guy. Oh, what a sweetheart.
Want me to get in? I might have to go suddenly though. I should be working, so
Same.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah. Well, and in general, gentlemen, you know me. We are what are we? 8, no, why is my math so terrible? 7 minutes away, 6 minutes away from the hour mark.
you got
Listen,
to
I
come
don't
back.
have to get all my TLC back in this one stream. We can spread it out, you know.
Okay. I have not caught any of this. I just saw you were streaming, so
That's
what's
fine.
what are you talking about?
Um, I think primarily my AI summary of the stream has been our Lenten experiences, which I think are similar, and just kind of what I was talking to you and Cal about almost not feeling Christian, like I'm just incapable of it. But within that is the seed of a fidelity to Christianity, because it's realizing that you cannot will the laying down of your own will.
Yeah, yeah,
Like you
yeah. 'Cause
can't
it's like,
will your own kenosis.
yeah,
So
the feeling
so
is like absolute despair and hopelessness at
Well, and
sometimes.
that's tied to Christian nihilism. I still haven't sent you that article. My priest sent me an article the day before Pascha and it was about Seraphim Rose. And it was essentially that like Seraphim Rose is almost considered, a lot of people think he will eventually be canonized and become a saint, but he is kind of he's almost the epitome of the American saint of individualism and despair. And because he, in his Americanism, he went Eastern like hard, because I think he studied Eastern philosophy and like learned Chinese and became like a legit scholar of the Tao, and then eventually met or was exposed to orthodoxy through someone he met who I didn't even realize he must have been gay at some point, because like he was with this person.
Cool.
And I don't do enough Lives of the Saints, not that they've covered him yet. What up, Ethan? And then he went into kind of a Christian nihilism. It was like a Mitch thing where he was just but you can't, America is almost uniquely interesting that way, in that like our atheism, our secularism, we have like this, America kind of developed in its own unique way the religion that's not a religion. Like it was the fall of American Christianity was what gave the seeds of like almost abounded Christianity. You got to go? Oh, he's taken off. All right. Anyhow. Gotta bounce. Sorry,
Yeah, that
go
makes
ahead, Jason.
I need to I still need to talk to Mitch more about Christian nihilism. I feel like I always need to talk about it more. But it's been like when he first brought it up to me, I was like, this I don't even know what you're talking about. This makes no sense. But it seems like it has repeatedly kind of come up more and more, and almost in ways of just like feeling it. Like it's almost like I can't really even talk about it or describe it with my mind. It is kind of this weird like I don't know. Yeah, it's like this despair within love or something. Or like it's like this is that you only I don't know. But yeah, I totally feel you though. I was feeling definitely the same way, especially around um that time. I wonder if you're kind of supposed to feel that to some degree.
I don't know. I think people like you and me are supposed to feel that way. So, okay. So I'm gonna wrap this up pretty soon, because apparently PBK is gonna be doing a live stream about Pope Francis in
Oh,
20 minutes at least. So
yeah. He apparently died of pneumonia, and I think I might have pneumonia. So hopefully I'm going to clinic today finally.
yeah,
Okay.
lung stuff sucks, because it's as someone who grew up as an asthmatic, not being able to breathe, and while I'm still asthmatic, is terrifying. So
Yeah. And it's kind of it's it messes with me mentally because I'm tired of just not being able to do stuff. Like I had to carry chicken feed yesterday, and it was just too much. Yeah, and I'm like,
isn't it unbelievable? Like when you can't, God, there was some line recently where it was like, oh, Rhett said it. No, Alex O'Connor said it. Let me come up with this, because I feel like this is totally applicable. So apparently at Darwin, at the end of The Origin of the Species, apparently he had some line he wrote in there about it was funny because it didn't say God initially, and then there was such a big pushback that he had to put God in the second edition. I can't remember exactly the details of it, but at the end of The Origin of the Species, it said something about, it was talking about life coming, but like he used the words out of like breath or breathing, or like from the breath came forward this life or something. Oh, sorry, buddy. I didn't see you, David. And I was thinking like, that's such a, because even that breathing, like when you said that and you're like, I couldn't even carry buckets of chicken feed. And I was thinking that is from the dust of the earth, created and breathed into us the breath of life. Like every breath in, out, is the breath of God. And when we stop breathing, I mean, whatever, like barring drowning in very cold water and being able to be resuscitated. When you stop breathing, you stop. That's you. The life is gone from your body. God is no longer breathing in you.
There's a word for that, which is you expire.
Yeah,
in
for sure.
spirit.
Right.
That's
right.
Spire is spirit, like breath, wind, spirit, breath, all the same word. Which is also I want more people to talk about this. I think that's what happens when we speak. Like speaking is your breath.
Yeah.
Right? That is what speech is. So the idea that God's spirit is how he creates the world is in him speaking. Like speak and spirit is the same thing.
Your life flowing out of you. And that's actually what an integrated person is when your speech and your action are at one.
Right. Luke, welcome back. Also,
Thank you.
does this mean that Jason is the Pope? Because
it might be.
he has.
I thought Chad was
That's
the
why
Pope.
you have
Did they
pneumonia.
have the thing for Chad?
Yeah, Chad is Pope.
Listen, we are all American, Canadian Protestants, even if we don't want to be, and so we're all popes. Okay.
I'm Catholic, so I actually could be. Well, I was baptized Catholic.
Okay.
And I'm forced by my parents to go twice a year, which means I'm still Catholic apparently.
But you're not. I can't remember. Where do you practice? Do you go to church?
Yeah, I do. But I'm just like an evangelical. But I also do some Jewish stuff.
Do you even go to church?
You TL. This is like TLC LGBTQ. You're religiously bi, greedy.
Yeah.
That's what we call those people.
Yeah, an evangelical that celebrates Jewish feasts. Why not?
Listen, the more I know of Judaism, the more I'm just like, I reached out to Chezi because he's here, and I was just updated him, and he was trying to respect my boundaries and not talk to me at all because I said I was taking a fast, but I was like, that doesn't mean I'm not like talking to my friends. And so we did a little communicating, and I was talking to him, and he basically his heart broke for me as the poor American Protestant that I am, that I don't have to keep Shabbat because that would help me so much. Like if I was just like a conservative Orthodox Jew, and it was just like, you have to stop today. You have to stop.
You're not allowed. Yeah, once a week, you're not allowed. Yeah. What was I going to say? Oh, I'm from Windsor, Ontario, which basically makes me Midwestern. Windsor, Ontario has enough contact with Detroit, and we have like a bunch of expressions that are only Midwestern expressions.
Nice.
So I kind of consider myself Midwestern with a little bit of street cred because of Detroit.
Yeah. That was one of the jokes that we had at the Paschal service. Is one of the service attendants that I was working with at our church was saying that like that's the Minnesota response to Christ is risen, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you betcha." That's what we say.
That's great.
Oh, yeah, he's risen.
They did overdo that one song in the service. Orthodox know how to just overkill a song, man. You know
Christ
what?
Risen from the dead, trampling down death by death.
I went to like a sunrise service on Easter, and it was like a bunch of churches all went, and the pastor tried a couple of times to Christ has risen, and man, some of those they just didn't know. There's like 3 people saying it, my wife being one of them. They just didn't know you're supposed to risen indeed to that.
Yeah.
Well, Pentecostals got no idea.
There's many. See, look at all these. These are all the responses that they just printed out for us in the different languages. And it's just like, I don't. And then it's a game of like the things that everyone knows, like all the different languages that you know. And people come up to me and say it. And I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know the response. I'm sorry. I'm just like, that's the rumor. That's how I reply. Ethan, are you locked up? Also, when you drive back through Wisconsin, do you want to stop and see me?
Are you a Twin Cities area?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were in St. Paul for 3 months, which is a shame that I didn't meet TLC before that.
That is too bad. I'm very close. Actually, technically, St. Paul's across the street.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you been, Ethan?
Potentially. Good. Good. David, we haven't met yet. I've seen you.
Yeah, I haven't. Out of nowhere. No, yeah. I've only been really active in the corner for the past year, and in like it seems like the last 2 weeks, you are everywhere.
Yeah, well, I'm an unemployed writer, so I have the free time to be everywhere. But that won't.
Are there really employed writers? If you're employed, I don't think you're a writer.
Okay. Well, I may soon be a writer who's employed at Costco. Let me put it that way.
Okay.
Oh, nice. With all the other writers.
Yeah. So I have about 2.5 months of freedom left. What
do you write?
Board behind you, David.
Oh, that's my art piece. It's the days of creation. Building on it. Hopefully, it will be done in the fall.
Sometimes he paints it on stream.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's only taken him.
Yeah. Can I bring?
It's a TLC flex. That's his like Jordan Peterson 3D psychedelic hallucination. Like, what is that thing that Jordan Peterson has? It's like his icon that he like saw when he was tripping.
It's the meaning of music.
Yeah.
It's about the meaning of music.
It's the meaning of music.
I think I'm going to interview Kermit the Frog.
Only an individual can suffer.
Jed, I feel also, I just want to say in general before we shut this down, because PVK is 10 minutes, but I feel so loved that you guys all received me back so wonderfully and showed up and wanted to play.
Can I ask you one
Ethan,
question?
What does it?
It's short.
Yeah.
Do you send everybody foot pics or just me?
I don't know who I sent that all to. Yeah, you might be the first to get a picture.
I'm just gonna
of my
assume
feet.
it's a sex thing, like ASMR. ASMR. That's definitely a sex thing.
I can't even remember the context of why I did that. Like I'm such a flowy, weird, unstructured person that I'm sure there was some reason or context why I sent you that picture.
You said, "Do you know what this is?"
That was the reason? That seems not that deep.
And it was a picture of your feet with toe spacers.
Yeah.
And I responded to you on Signal, and I said, "You're trying to get your feet in the right form."
That's true. I mean, that's all very true. I mean, we've all shoved our feet.
That feels very pornographic with the pulling them apart. That's too much.
Well, you've never seen my feet. It's not very pornographic.
Ethan, what do you write? What does Ethan write? Do you write novels? Do you write poetry? What are we talking about?
The answer is yes. I don't really have a specialty. I'm attempting to be a generalist. So yeah, I'm going to dip a toe in novel. I'm going to dip a toe in poetry. I'm going to dip a toe in philosophy. I'm going to dip a toe in God and religion and exegesis. And I'm going to dip a toe in American history.
Are you using the idiom dip a toe in intentionally?
Yeah. Do you write smut?
Please, Ethan, you're making perverts stumble everywhere. I'm in a mood. Okay.
See, this is the kind of TLC that I'm here for. This is the sacrilegious corner of the corner. Because I was going to make the joke that he writes erotic stories, but
yeah, that's what I was asking. He said everything, right?
Collapse. There's a lot of podiatrists in the corner. Really? I don't have collapse. I think I have decent arches. My right ankle's pretty messed up though from too much balling.
Ethan, for you to keep in your head, on a comedic level, podiatrist is the funniest version of a doctor. I don't know why. It just is. Like proctologist, you get like a dirty joke out of that. But if it's like random, stupid thing, like, what is he, a podiatrist? That's, for whatever reason, that's funnier. I don't know why. It just is. Well, let's not get into erotic theology.
I don't know why either, but I like that.
I have a personal affinity to endocrinologist.
Mm.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that
I
seems...
I think it's the plosives. It makes things funnier. So in my one of the worldly news tonight, I accused Chezi of being an Episcopalian, It's just
Oh, really?
Episcopalian is the funniest denomination because of the P's.
It's a funny word.
Yeah.
Why does that make it funny?
It's
The more P's, the better.
There's a sound to
Yeah.
it. There's a
Just
poetic
say it
sound to it.
in your head over and over a bunch of
Yeah.
times. You'll start giggling.
Yeah.
All right, I'll do
Hezi
that.
Spiro
That'll
has
be
been
my afternoon meditation. Just Episcopalian.
Hezi Spiro has been unmasked and revealed to actually be a Midwestern Episcopalian named Christopher. See, can you pick
That
a
would be
funnier
wild.
denomination for him to be?
That would be hey, listen, that's an option for lurkers. If you really don't want to come out and show your true self, just pretend, just like throw on a yarmulke, pretend to be an Orthodox Jew.
So that's the continuation of the joke, Luke. Is like I got this guy named John A to send in a clip where he's just like, I Googled what he was saying, and it turns out all the Hebrew phrases he was just making it up and no one was noticing.
Yeah. Right.
And then
listen, they just don't have the courage to be like me and just make up their own words completely out of cloth.
I got Hezi to send me a clip, not even knowing what the joke was, saying my name was originally a quote about Levi's jeans, but then with autocorrect, now this lie has really it's gone too far. And then immediately cuts back to me, and I just said, with this revelation in mind, that voice he's doing is super, super offensive.
You could add this: a pescatarian Episcopalian.
Yes, a pescatarian Episcopalian is a great.
Podiatrists serve a vital function in the medical community. By their very existence, they legitimize dentists and chiropractors as actual doctors. That's really funny.
That's what we need. Oh, this is good.
Good grief. All right. Well, I mean, that's about as good of a closer as we can do. I think I'm planning, God willing, to go to Midwestuary. I think we'll see.
I'll be there.
I don't know. Sometimes there are other things. There are other events happening around similar times that part of me thinks that I should be attending.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm much more on the fence than I ever was before, but anyhow, I could maybe see some people.
Then I will reserve believing you're real. I've decided I'm at least 3 people in the corner are just AI.
Am I
living at this time? I don't know. I'll believe that you're real if I see you.
Man.
If I see you and touch you, then you're real.
If you put your hands in my side, I would love you to put your hands on my side.
We'll believe it if you send him a foot pic. That's what
That's
the AI. It does find the feet stuff difficult, right? Hands and feet.
That can be like the new inside TLC thing. That can be the D pick.
Your toes dipped in different things.
Put your toes in my toes.
So we hold hands.
With feet. I had a friend who is a ballerina, and she could pick up like a softball with her feet. She just it was
sounds. Weird. I mean, I feel like that should be that could be also some eroticism that Ethan could write about. But if it feels not erotic, it feels gross.
Like, why can't we do that? Why did God do that to us? I mean, monkeys can do that, and they have tails.
If I really focus, I can. I can spread my feet if I really focus. On one foot, it's just the pinky. It just goes like
you got to put spacers in your toes. If you put spacers in your toes, then you can use your toes.
Okay. All right. That's a good closer. That's where we're going to end it. Okay. Thanks everyone for coming. Go watch PBK. I'm going to go to work. Peace out.
As a palate cleanser.
Thanks for coming.